today what we are going to do is we are going to understand how technology plays a role and how a product manager eventually interacts with the tech teams, so that understandably you are able to make the right choices in order to move towards the right technology stack. And that is something that is extremely important as a product manager. So this is a meme. PMs from non-CS background, they are like very quiet, and PMs from CS background, they are very good. They understand how to talk with the tech teams and understand that what sort of value prop that you have to put forward to the tech team so that they can start doing development the right way. So this is also a meme which shows PMs who are lazy and PMs who are self-motivated. This is how it looks like. Tech mein aapne, you might have heard of lot of jargons like caching, like database, like AI, ML, data science, like NLP. We will try to break down and understand what is happening. First of all, you have to understand that there are two types of OSs. One is Android and other is iOS. How many of you know what is an OS? So an OS is like the engine of a car, or you must have heard of kernel. An OS is like the engine of a car which decides, or the brain of a human body, which decides what decisions can be made on top of all the body parts. Like एक OS के ऊपर बहुत सारे apps reside करेंगे, and what type of apps do actually reside on the OS is decided by the operating system. It is like the brain of a human body. It is like the engine of a car. And most in the world, there are two primary types of OS. One is Android, another is iOS. Android is developed by Google, iOS is developed by Apple. So even though apps might have different functionalities which reside on top of the OS, both versions are incompatible with each other. What I mean by that is an app on iOS will not be compatible with an app which is on Android, right? So there is a very heated debate. There's a heated debate that which OS to use. And there are multiple versions through which you decide which OS you should fundamentally use. And as a product manager, there are three primary pillars. Number one is versioning. Number two is performance. Number three is dynamic information. So versioning ka kya matlab hota hai? Versioning basically means that how quickly can we move from one version of the app to another version of the app so that people can have the best updated experience, right? Versioning ka matlab hota hai ki if I launch a version 1 of the app with certain functionalities, is there another version of the app that improves on the types of functionalities? What is the second part? Performance. How quickly will you be able to use the different functionalities of the app on the version? And the third thing is dynamic information, that how quickly information can be put across on the versions of the app. Now, there's a very interesting question that Android, which is as an OS, is completely open source. It is called the kernel of the operating system. Basically, the kernel or the version of OS, Android, is completely open source to all of the users, right? And Android bana kis pe hai? It is built on a kernel, which is, kernel basically means the heart of the OS. It is based on Linux. Linux was started by Linus Torvald, right? And that is something that he made completely free. The kernel is like a software which talks to the device's hardwares and helps do all of those things, the reading, writing applications, connecting to the keyboard, Wi-Fi. A kernel is like a car's engine. The computer literally wouldn't run without a kernel. And is kernel ke upar hi hamara Android OS bana hai. But Android is completely open source, right? So you need to ask me this question now, that why is Android completely open source? Can somebody tell me that why Android is completely open source? The funda is that Google as a platform makes most of its money through ads, right? And they don't make money through hardware. Hardware ke liye unhone kuch phones banaye the like Pixel, etc., whatever and whatnot. But Google completely makes money through ads. So the usage, from a usage pattern of Apple and Google, what you have to fundamentally understand, that Android is open source because it allows anyone to use Android, like Samsung, like HTC, like OnePlus. Google made it completely because they want everybody to use Android and they can make money through ads. But why didn't Apple do this? Can somebody tell me why didn't Apple typically use this platform and use bloatware? Because Apple fundamentally makes 60% of its income through iPhone sales, right? And they want a very close and very well done kind of experience that happens on the app. So Apple typically made this very, 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 very close and well knit, because iOS they want the hardware, software, and as well as the user experience to be very, very well read. And Android fundamentally did it because they make money through ads. everybody who comes on Android would be able to use the platform, and they will make money through apps. If in order to make decisions that how do you use a platform, the first version that you have to think of is that where my major market is and what OS you use. For example, let me ask you this question. You are building an app for people to drive 10 rupee subscriptions in tier 2 cities of some music subscription, podcast subscription. So tell me which OS would be far more usable. Now you have to decide what are the different factors through which you can use a particular ecosystem. The first factor is where my major market is and what OS they use. For example, let me ask this question. You are a podcasting company and the podcast is of 10 rupee podcasts, which eventually can be used in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and it's a lingual podcast. मतलब different languages में, मान लो तेलुगु में है, तमिल में है. So which platform would you use, Android or iOS? Absolutely, because your major market is primarily in tier 2 tier 3 cities जहां पे कोई iOS use ही नहीं करता, उनके पास iPhones है ही नहीं. Second, what kind of customization do I need in the app, right? For example, if you want to make a lot of customization, what platform would you use, iOS or Android? You will again use Android. iOS does not allow you to use add layers because they don't want bloatware. Third, ingestion of layers on platform for acquisition, right? So Android is not only just in the phone ecosystem. Android is simultaneously in the TV ecosystem, in the car ecosystem. So if you want to gather lot of data for acquisition, you would use Android. Also, Apple does not allow a lot of information in terms of privacy guidelines. So the third important factor for you to understand that which platform to use is primarily from an acquisition standpoint, that which platform to use, right? And this is acquisition basically means in terms of the data gathered. So Android is something that you would fundamentally use for acquisition. And fourth, availability of tech resources for the development to take place. Now, what is easier to find, an Android engineer or an iOS engineer? So I see people are writing Android. Absolutely. So there are four major factors through which you would be able to understand which platform to use. One, where my major market is and what OS to use. Second, what kind of customization do I need in the app? Do I need to put multiple ad layers, different bloat layers? Third, what kind of data do I need on the platform? And fourth, what kind of tech resources are available in the market for you to effectively build the platform? As a product manager, you will look at these four factors: where my major market is, what kind of customization do I need, third, what is the ingestion of layers, ingestion of data that you want, and fourth, what are the tech resources who are available. Awesome. So we'll quickly move forward. Now we will talk a little bit about the basics of something called system design and architecture for PMs.